Entering day 4 of Judge Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing, partisan theatrics taking over yesterday, with New Jersey Senator Cory Booker releasing documents he claimed were confidential, but actually turned out to be pre-approved for release and out already. Joining us now to talk more about that is the former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, author of Trump's America, Newt Gingrich. Newt, good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's good to be with you. And you know, when you see these kind of stunts, particularly if they're not well done, I think Booker shrank as a possible presidential candidate yesterday, except maybe on the Comedy Channel. The whole thing was absurd. And it has the kind of hyperbole. Spartacus, for those who have never paid attention to him, was a gladiator who led a rebellion, at the end of which he and several thousand people were crucified. Now, to stand in the Senate and say, this is going to be my Spartacus moment, is a comment of egocentrism with so little historic knowledge that Booker ought to just be, he ought to be ashamed of himself, go back to school, learn something, and until then, be kind of quiet.
Yeah, it really was theatrics. It reminds me of the last theatrics that he pulled was when he tried to take down Kirstjen Nielsen, the Homeland Security Secretary, when he was screaming at her, saying, your silence is deafening. I mean, really, really a theater worth an Academy Award there. Do you think this is going to, is it going to hurt the Democrats? Because this is not the first theater that we've seen. I mean, earlier in the week, you saw Kamala Harris interrupt Grassley when he was welcoming everybody, introducing the testimony. So what do you think? How are voters going to react in November to all of this?
Well, look, I think the president, both in his tweet yesterday morning and in his speech last night in Montana, has caught exactly the right tone. You have the lowest unemployment numbers in 50 years. You have the lowest African-American unemployment in history, the lowest Latino unemployment in history. You have North Korea public media saying that the North Koreans want to get to a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. I mean, all these things that are real are going on. That's the Trump Republican side. Over here, you have a group of people who look weirder and weirder and weirder. And I think that in the end, it has to be a substantial disadvantage for the Democrats. They're becoming a good example is Gavin Newsom, who is in favor of universal health care for every illegal immigrant who can get to California, without having thought through the signal that'll send worldwide that you ought to become a medical refugee and go to California the minute you have a problem. I mean, it's just kind of mindless, very much like Cory Booker, having slogans with no thought, having ideas without any research, and then thinking that emotions will carry the day. I think it weakens the Democrats dramatically.
Yeah.
Newt, it's Dagan McDowell. Do you think, though, that with the president, Maria just noted that he was tweeting about Nike this morning, does that take the attention off of the message that every Republican, particularly the commander-in-chief, should be pushing, and that is how strong this economy is? Again, we talked about it yesterday. In every way, you see incredible strength. Consumer confidence, 18-year high. Factory growth, 14-year high. We're going to get the jobs numbers out. An economy that's picking up steam, 9 years into an expansion. Look,
I'm very cautious about this because I ran for president once. You know, I didn't beat 16 other members to be the nominee. I didn't beat Hillary Clinton in a $1 billion campaign, and I didn't beat the entire elite media. And I didn't then spend 2 years having the New York Times and anybody else beat me up and still be standing, which Trump is. I personally believe Trump would be better off if about 10% of his tweets never went out. I think that they distract from what he's doing. They actually alienate people from him. And the point Dagan just made, which is exactly right. He has some big stories to tell. His speech last night was perfect. He had the big issues, the big contrast, the big choice. But then I think he gets bored. And I also think, and as you know, I've written 2 books on Trump. I think part of it is he has a theory that sheer noise dominates. And that's why I'm very cautious about judging him, because the truth is, so far, for a guy who never ran for public office, he's had an amazing run for 3.5 years.
Yeah, he sure has.
So occasionally we're going to get I don't mind the Nike tweet. I mind some of the dumber ones.